What's up, THS? I'm Mrs. Smith from the library. Our theme this week is I Hate It Here, and these are my top three. Have you ever felt like you were starring in your own personal remix of Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day? Or perhaps the environment in which you find yourself simply does not pass the vibe check. When you are in good company, the characters in the books we're going to talk about this week, well, they hate it here and they want to go home. Layla Amin would really like to go home, but she's being told that her new home is a prison camp called Mobius. That's the premise of our first book for this week. It's by Samira Ahmed and it's called Internment. So when we meet Layla, she's on her way home just a few minutes after curfew, and her neighbors are on their way to a book burning where they are feeding the flames with books of poetry that were written by Layla's father. Layla is the daughter of Indian immigrants, and her dad taught poetry at the local university before he lost his job as a part of the Exclusion Acts. The Exclusion Acts were an executive order from this fictitious president of the United States who decides that Muslim Americans are a threat, and they allow for Muslim Americans to be fired from their job without cause. Now, despite all this, Layla's still trying to carry on with her normal 17-year-old life, concerned about 17-year-old things, mostly her boyfriend David, and going to prom. But this all gets interrupted abruptly when she and her family are arrested and sent to an internment camp for Muslim Americans called Mobius. At Mobius, Layla's parents are assigned new jobs. They have to survive off of rationed food, water, and supplies, and their conversations are monitored by armed guards. And so as Layla starts to watch all these injustices stack up against her and her family, she decides that she's no longer willing to accept things the way they are, and she starts to take action. Internment is an intense read. There are action survival elements here. If you are interested in American history, you're going to appreciate the connections between Mobius and Manzanar and what happened to Japanese Americans during World War II. If you're more interested in current events and politics, we've got that here as well. And for good measure, Samira Ahmed throws in a love triangle because even in the middle of a global crisis, the heart wants what the heart wants. So that's book number 3. It's called Internment. It's by Samira Ahmed.
Good day. I'm not sure if you're watching this in the morning or the afternoon. Hello, everyone. It is me, Mrs. Jacobson, and I am here to talk to you about the book Hole in My Life by Jack Gantos. It is nonfiction. That means it's a true story. It's an autobiography written by the author, and I chose it not only because it matches my dress, and it's not only my favorite color, bright yellow, in case you need to get me a present, but it is a real look at how somebody gets out of a sticky situation and becomes a famous author. So Jack Gantos wanted to get out of, I think, New York, and he had a crappy job. He wanted to go to college and become an author, but he didn't have any money for tuition. So somebody asked him if he would work on a boat, a sailboat, and sail a ton of drugs from the Virgin Islands all the way up to New York. And he was like, well, how much money are we talking about? The guy says $10,000, and he's like, that's enough for tuition. So he was in. They sailed the boat all the way from Virgin Islands all the way up to New York, and then he got arrested for drug trafficking and taken away to federal prison. And then he does get convicted because he had a ton of drugs in a sailboat, and he ends up going to prison, and there are some chapters about his prison life. There's nothing terribly graphic. There's nothing that's going to make you probably freak out. However, there are some graphic moments. He works in the hospital, and he has to help prisoners that have various ailments, and some of them are self-inflicted because their mental health is not being attended to because they've chosen to do drugs in prison. And so there are overdoses, there are some attempts at getting high that are uncomfortable because the great lengths that the addicts would go to get high. And then there's an instance with an enema and a patient who was very, very sick because he had smuggled a bunch of drugs into the prison by way of his bottom, rectum. Dang near killed him. So, the book, as I said, is nonfiction. It is written at about a 9th or 10th grade reading level, and it is fast-paced. Obviously, Jack Gantos, that's his real mugshot. He does make it out of prison, and he does become a famous author, and this is the story of how he got there.
Our next book is the debut of author Adam Sass. It's an edge-of-the-seat thriller that takes place at a gay conversion therapy camp, and it's called Surrender Your Sons. Connor Major is prepping for the worst summer of his life. Started when he got his SAT scores back, not great. And then the man that he had been delivering Meals on Wheels to passed away, also not great. But the cherry on top of the sundae is the fact that he is now on punishment after coming out to his super religious mom. Connor's boyfriend, Ario, really insisted that Connor come out, and he promised that everything in his life would be better after he did. Wrong. Now, Connor has no access to his phone. He's not allowed on social media. His mom's taken all his pictures, and there are no more trips to the city to go see Ario. Connor knew that his mom wouldn't necessarily take his coming out well, but he did not anticipate her reaction to finding out that he already had a boyfriend. So now Connor is wondering how he and his mom are going to survive the 2 months of summer locked in the house with nothing to do. So then this black van that's been circling their rural neighborhood stops at the Major's home, and Connor is kidnapped in the middle of the night by armed and masked men. When he tries to call out to his mom for help, she only wipes her tears and reminds Connor that she loves him. And a few hours later, Connor finds himself on a secluded island in Costa Rica with other students like him. Some are older and some are much, much younger. But they will all stay on this island until they, quote, surrender their sins, as the welcome sign says. The camp is called Nightlight, and the staff at the camp will use any tactic, any means necessary to encourage the campers to embrace a straight life. Right from the jump, we see that these tactics are going to be violent, they're torturous, and the Nightlight stamp does not accept failure. At Nightlight, you comply or you die, but Connor and his homies have no intention of doing either. This book has a very uncomfortable blend of horror and heartbreak, and it comes very highly recommended by me, and it will wrap up our list for this week's theme of I Hate It Here. So that's it for my top 3 recommendations for the week. But I do want to remind you that if you didn't hear anything that you're interested in this video, that there are also a ton of resources on the library website that you can use to help find the right book that's a good fit for you. So the new one that I want to tell you about is the library meeting requests form. It's an opportunity for you to schedule a meeting with me on Teams, and we can talk about books that you've read in the past and enjoyed. We can talk about topics or genres that you're interested in, and then I'll take that information to create a customized list of book recommendations for you, and then hopefully we'll get you matched up to a book that you'll love and enjoy. So I really appreciate your time, as always, just like every week. And just like every week, I'll be back again on Monday with some more book recommendations for you later. Take care. Bye-bye.